So can you, I mean, don't give me the answer now, but start thinking on that process of what do you think affect what external factors. We'll wait for another 2 or 3 minutes, and then let's see what's the number now. 33, 34, and rising.
Sir, so I'm here.
Yes.
You want me to switch on my video? It looks
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Of course.
ये झूली सी नीली आंखें, ये राज है उनका गहरा, ये चांद से रोशन चेहरा, जुल्फों का रंग सुनहरा, ये झील सी नीली आंखें.
So this is our last class. I have a few things to cover, and I'd like to, I'm not very sure if I can pack them all in 3 hours. I should be. Depends on how interactive it is, but that shouldn't hold you back from being non-interactive. Actually, matter of fact, you should be more now. And so I thought we'll begin the class early. So now, when we did a SWOT, what were we trying to say? When we did a SWOT, we said the SWOT stood for strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. And then what is my strength? My strength is I have a great product. My strength is that I have some unique selling proposition. My strength is I know exactly the segment of market that I want to focus on, target, and position my product. My strength also happens to be the fact that I know how to control my pricing, meaning that I know what's the input cost. And I also know how exactly do I play with my final pricing to the customer. And that seems to go well with my customer. My customer somehow likes me for the pricing that I have, which is good. And of course, I'm doing the right things in terms of promotion. I've got the right channels of advertisement. I have the right channels of distribution and all that. Obviously, weakness is nothing but the other side of the same coin. Somebody is good at something, it obviously means that if he's not good at something, he's bad at the same very things. So he's not got his product right. He doesn't know how to position it. He somehow is not able to control his cost. I mean, I can't keep repeating more than this, right? And so those were the two problems that we faced. Then we started talking about opportunity. What is opportunity? Opportunity is there is a market. Wow. Okay, so there's a market. So you will read more about opportunities in term 3 when you start looking at another segment or element of business, which is international business, and why we should, what do you benefit by an alliance and partnership and things like that. Who's this? Okay, and then where do we have? And then, of course, the first mover advantage and things like that. I'll just briefly talk about it. I probably am the first to enter the market, and hence I have some advantage, of course, right? No denial that no reasons why companies put up a board which says that established since 1902 is the name of a club that I have in my neighborhood. So they flaunt it, saying that, you know, we set up this club in 1902. So first mover advantage is also there. You may have a better technology. While that's one part of the problem, the other problem is threats. What are the threats that a company faces? What do you think are the ones? So we'll spend some time to warm you up. Anusha warmed them up brilliantly for the morning. And now let's get into what do you think are the various factors? Can you name reasons why external factors which impact a company negatively? What do you think would be the reasons? Can you name some of them? Anybody?
Government laws.
Pardon?
Government laws.
Government laws could put you in trouble. Excellent. Then what else?
Political factors, social factors.
Political factors can somebody is thinking pestle. Very good. Okay. What else can happen?
Climatic condition.
What is that?
Natural disasters.
Natural disasters, factors which we cannot foresee, and then they come up. But then natural disasters, political factors, regulatory government don't affect you alone, right? They also affect everybody. So why would it one company be affected, let's say? Legal could be a reason. Okay.
Enterprise environmental factors.
Enterprise environmental factor, meaning?
Like the where the company is located, the kind of customers they have.
Okay, I get what you're trying to say. Okay, next, anybody else? As you can see, we haven't started off yet. So anybody else?
Local strikes and local lockdowns that also will affect one particular company.
Which was that?
Suppose if there is any strikes in the local area, the frequent strikes will happen. For example, in case of windmills, we have windmills in one particular area.
Okay.
And there frequently we need a roads to go in the farmers' land, and the farmers are the conducting strikes every time. So that will affect only one particular company.
Okay. So all of you are coming out with good answers, but you guys are thinking similarly on a different direction. So let me, through very uniquely and oddly positioned slides or pictures, give you some idea. What is it that could give reasons for companies to perform bad? Have a look at these slides. Of course, these pictures are not obvious, but they give you some kind of an indication. Is some kind of an indication to what it could be. Just give me 1 minute. So do you get some ideas from this these pictures? Technology could come and damage you. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. Two competitors fighting each other. So
two competitors fighting each other. Very good. So now technology coming and fighting you.
Advancement.
Hang on. Whoever said technology coming and killing you, give me an example.
TVs. So we had earlier old TVs. Now we have improved LED, LCD with these. Earlier we had only with.
No, you can't take my example and give me this. TV is my example, but you need to. These are just options for you to think about. So give me another one. You could say typewriters got thrown out by printers.
Yeah.
The same company could have been smarter to come out with printers.
Android over Symbian operating system that killed Nokia.
Okay, that's good. Then new player coming and throwing.
Now in fact, when more into electric vehicles now, the petrol vehicles are the companies are slowly turning.
Could come and throw you. Okay. And what is this? Can anybody I used very odd, I mean, I couldn't think of a, but I wanted to make it as cryptic as possible so that you also put some effort to think. What is this? This, of course, is, what did you say? What somebody said, competitor. What is that?
Competitors, yeah.
Yeah, so example?
Example, maybe Airtel and Zio is one, and old maybe Kingfisher and Jet.
Yeah, so
If you go back,
Pepsi. So can you redefine that sentence with the saying, while the industry or the sector is attractive? Now complete the sentence using competitor. While the industry or the sector is attractive and profitable.
Right, Professor. Yeah.
Complete the sentence.
Right. So while industry and the sector is very attractive, they wanted to get the advantage and the capitalize the opportunity to gain the more market share. Hence, they started targeting each other, and
eventually they killed the sector. Or I don't know if you guys know a story about two cats and a monkey, or I don't know what, or two monkeys and a cat, two cats and a monkey. So there was let's assume that the monkey, since they are our ancestor in some sense, are smarter than, so we'll take the monkey as a smarter character. So two cats were fighting over a piece of cheese. So they wanted to make sure that it's 50-50 correctly. So a monkey comes in and says, oh, this guy's cheese is slightly more, so he would a little bit from that. And then he say, oh, now the other cheese is more, so like that he'll end up eating. So two guys fighting, and then something happens. That's good, very good. What do you think is this? I just use some electronic terminologies. I don't know if you guys get it. What is that?
This is modulation you are doing.
What is that?
You are doing modulation here to improve the signal quality of the new competitor's product.
I know. You're not actually.
Yeah, the gates, Professor.
You're not doing modulation. In this case, you're not doing modulation. This is no, this is no, this is yes.
Flip-flop gates.
Yeah. So take this example and try to give me what happens.
Third party is taking advantage over the two quarrels or something like that.
Third party is taking advantage. Okay. Yeah. Very, very cryptic, but we'll see. And this one, again, very hard to decide.
Like two inputs will be given together, Professor, and the outcome will be different.
Okay. Or there is, okay. Anyway, good. So I got a few, I didn't get a few more. So we are saying that company could strangle each other. Technology can come and damage you. And let me add another one. Technology can come and damage you. Companies fight with each other. And then we have a supplier saying that I'm not going to give you the raw material. So you have a bad seller. So I'm not going to give you raw material. So how will you succeed? Whatever is the reason, there's no raw material available to you, or somebody doesn't want to buy your product. I mean, you're blocked from buying it. So kind of demonetization. Okay, good. So let me move to the real topic of today, which is stop share screen. Why am I not getting this? Can you see this?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so what we are talking today is called the Porter's 5 forces of competitive analysis. With some kind of an intro to the subject, let us look at what 5 parameters impact any business, any individual business, any sectorial business, and how do we fight as a company, or how do we fight as an organization or a sector to ensure that we stay alive, and we are not eaten up by either a bigger giant called Goliath or a smaller character called David. So let's look at it. So Michael Porter came up with 5 parameters which could come and truly damage your existence. What are these parameters? One, he said, competition between us. I mean, we could really be drastically competing with each other, resulting in maybe competing for market share or competing to ensure that the one survives and the other gets killed. And as a matter of fact, you could end up damaging the whole industry. That's one thing. There could be a new entrant who comes in with something very unique, very disruptive, and then he totally changes the market perception. There could be buyers who don't like you. That's a very simplistic statement. Or there could be buyers who say that, well, sorry, we don't buy your products. And that could, and we look at how such buyers are there and what it could mean to us. So buyers could say, we will not allow you to, will not buy your product, and hence what could you do? I mean, you're just out. Or they could be suppliers who say, sorry, let's assume that there's a newspaper company, and for some reason, let's create a story. For some reason, the government says that, hey, this newspaper is behaving cranky. So the newspaper, how do you bring the newspaper to control? So you give them a few notices, but nothing seems to work. Then the government goes and says to the supplier of newspaper, which is just raw paper or rolls and rolls or reams and reams of paper. So you go tell him that, hey, if you supply to this guy, we'll put you in trouble. So the supplier then goes to the newspaper and says, sorry guys, I can't supply. Whatever the reason, I can't tell you, I can't supply, matter closed. So now you have a situation where a supplier is responsible for your demise or whatever, the company not doing well. And of course, we discuss, and there are 101 stories about how a substitute can come and throw you out. So this is what Porter said are the 5 forces which will come to effect to drive the industry either in a forward-looking direction or literally bring down the industry. So read these factors, but let's talk a little bit more about what these are. One of them is called the threat of new entrants. Of course, that's always there. That's always there. What is threat of new entrant? I am sitting having a good market life. There are only four suppliers or whatever, and then we are having a good market share. A new entrant comes, and he virtually throws you out. You have Jio as an example, or you have so many examples in our own day-to-day life and in the businesses that we do. Is all of a sudden there's a new player who comes and throws out the comfort zone that the existing operators were there. So that's one thing that could damage. The second is the bargaining power of the customer. The customer is, of course, the king. The customer has got huge bargaining powers. And especially if the customer is a large customer. If the customer, I mean, again coming back to the newspaper example, somehow I'm stuck to the newspaper example today. If you look at it, we all know that then a newspaper costs about 5 rupees. And incidentally, I did have some association with a newspaper organization who are our customers when they started a television channel. So I have some idea on how the newspaper works from an economic model. So the money that is actually printed on the newspaper normally goes off as the cost of delivery for the boys or whoever doing it. The real money for the newspaper comes by those ads which are printed on the newspaper. And among those ads, the largest ad comes from the government. So if the government is not printing ads in your newspaper, you could be in big trouble. Or if apart from let's say the government, maybe we have the e-commerce platforms like Byju's or what is it, Big Basket or something like that, who are major users of newspaper for their ads. And so they have huge bargaining power because they publish the front page ad every third day. And so they might be more demanding. They could be more insisting that, so you don't give me a better price, I might even walk out of it. So that could be one bargaining power of the customer. There's another example of bargaining power of the customer, which is which I very like to. The story behind it is that how many of you have heard of a company called SnapDeal? How many of you know what is SnapDeal? Right, I'm sure quite a few of you know what is SnapDeal, and I don't know in terms of how they came up. I may be wrong, but they were probably the second, or they were really the first, even before Flipkart. But let's assume that that's not the point of discussion. So SnapDeal, whenever they would make a promotional pitch, or whenever they would make a pitch to their investors, they would talk about the story of a lady in Surat. So there was this very enterprising, and you know, Gujaratis are very enterprising, and any Gujaratis around here, take that as a compliment. So Gujaratis are very enterprising. So this lady in Surat would do some artwork on saris, and would go to the shops in the bazaars of Surat, requesting them to keep these and sell them. Now what has happened was that the terms and conditions of these customer of hers, who was actually the shop owners, was very, very, very tough. So they would say that you keep it here, we won't pay you the money. If the product costs $1,000, I'm going to give you only 600. I'm going to keep the remaining one as my margin. And you know, like lot of payment delays and things like that. So this lady would have to virtually struggle going from shop to shop and do that. And one fine day, she got introduced to SnapDeal. So now she started advertising her products on SnapDeal. Now you see, SnapDeal opened up a totally new market for her, and they had something, and she ended up being something like a 50 crore or a 60 crore entity from somebody who's struggling to make a living. So one is there's the bargaining power of the customer. Like initially, what would happen is the customer, which was the sari shops, would heavily bargain with her because that was the only outlet for her to sell. Now she gets an alternate outlet of selling, and then now she goes to SnapDeal and things like that. But then let's continue that story. Today, by default, if I have to sell something, I have to be on Amazon or I have to be on Flipkart. So if I am not on Amazon or Flipkart, one of my primary sales channel is out. So it continues to be that there is the bargaining power of my customer, who is Flipkart and Amazon. So they could put all kind of complex conditions for me to do that. And if I don't comply with them, I could be in trouble. So that's the threat of the bargaining power of the customers. What is the threat of substitutes? The threat of substitutes is that one fine day, I no longer hail a taxi or an auto in my neighborhood. I have a wonderful app, and through an app I book an auto. So no longer is the auto guy in a bargaining power with me, because there is a substitute which is able to give me, and there's an alternative to the existing product. There are lots of things. Normally, the threat of substitute could also be, even in this case of an app versus a regular hailing down an auto, the example is some kind of a technology overlay. So that is the threat of substitutes. What is the bargaining power of the suppliers? I gave some unique example of the newspaper and the raw paper material. But there are also examples where the suppliers have great control over certain products. Now, if you look at it, the crisis that India faces today is a power crisis. We unfortunately don't generate enough power, so our power consumption is always, there's a greater demand and there's a big gap between demand and supply. So what we want to do, we want to have better quality of fuel. So we want to have nuclear energy. We want to have nuclear energy. Now, one of the suppliers of nuclear energy raw material, which is the enriched uranium, comes from Australia. Now, for us, it's not simple that we go place an order on Australia and say, send us 10,000 kilograms of enriched uranium and we buy it. No, there are a lot of conditions that the suppliers have. The suppliers will insist that you do not use it for mute. Okay, and then so they would put in a lot of conditions saying that you must sign this nuclear non-proliferation treaty and things like that. So these could be the bargaining power of the suppliers, and virtually without the supplier, you cannot do business. And competitive rivalry within the industry, perfect examples. There are so many such examples of competitive rivalry within the industry. Is both industries are fighting for each other. They want to get a better price, and it could be mostly the general feeling is when two industries compete, the beneficiary is the customer. That is what was the initial view when Jio entered the market, and Jio started shaking up and everybody cut the cost. So we were all very excited because Jio has come in. There's so much of rivalry between the industry and I am the beneficiary. But eventually the rivalry is so hot and so damaging that many of those telcos had to wind up and shut down. So who is now impacted is actually the customers get impacted. So competitive rivalry within an industry could one, kill that industry per se. You could see what happened between the competing industry with Indigo. As a matter of fact, Indigo, Jet, all of them getting into a lot of fight, and then all had to, one of them or a couple of them had to shut down. So Porter's 5 forces talks about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters which could impact any industry, any business, or the growth of such businesses. So now I would like you guys to take a moment to think about it and give me an answer as to what is it that the industry should do to ensure that these 5 forces are under control. Now, there's a threat of new entrants. So what is it that the industry can do to ensure that there is no threat to new entrants? Give me an example. We are now thinking very dynamic, very diametrically in a very different thought process. So there's a threat of new players. New player will enter and he could damage the industry. So what is it that you can do to stop the entry of a new player? Anybody?
Acquisition.
Pardon?
We could buy their company acquisition.
Buy anybody who's coming in, you just buy him off. Okay, that's good. Next.
Put some regulations on their products to enter certain areas.
I want you to, you're hitting the right conversation and track. We are end of class 6. So I want an MBA answer. Exactly what you answered, but I want you to restructure your answer so it looks like you attended 6 of my classes. So reframe yourself and give a nice answer. In the meanwhile, anybody else can also take a shot.
We can choose products and services with the higher entry barrier so that the entry for the new entrants becomes difficult for them.
Victory for the new entrants become difficult. Okay, now can you, yeah, you did that. Anybody, like whoever started initially, can you reframe your sentence? So what do you mean by barrier to entry? What do you mean by barrier to entry? How do you make that difficult?
So for instance, we can design the solution which is not easy to create. For instance, the platform which Ola or Uber created, there is a software infrastructure, cloud and other things. There is an investment cost. So only a huge investor with a lot of money can enter that, and not anybody can enter that potential market.
Perfect. That's Raghavan, right? Yeah. Perfect. So that's one thing. Okay. Let's put that there. Okay, well done. Leave it there. So the bargaining power of the customer is that it's like this. And I do not know how many of you are from Jayanagar, but I'll give you a very unique example. Is that there's a coffee outlet called Mayas. Anybody who's been there in this place called Mayas, where they make some real good coffee? So there's a place called Mayas, and right bang opposite, there was another coffee outlet which came up. And the Mayas coffee is something like 17 rupees or 23 rupees or something, slightly more expensive. Whereas this guy was able to sell it at 10 rupees per coffee. Obviously, the next day you could see en masse, and right on the other side of the road, the whole guys just moved out. Okay. So, but eventually, over a period of time, that balance was restored with a lot of them coming back to the coming back to Maya's. So what do you think happened? That's one possible answers for bargaining power of the customer. How do you, my question is, how do you, let me ask you the question. So before you give me an answer, how do you as a company stop the bargaining power of the customer, or how do you as a company fight that bargaining power of the customer? Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, exceptional quality.
Exceptional quality. Okay, what else? Now, that's one answer. Perfect. Now, think slightly different.
A reasonable price.
Reasonable price. Okay.
Yeah, then serviceability, how the services are provided there.
The serviceability, how the services are provided. Okay. Okay.
I think
So there is this
quality.
Okay. Okay. So the quality, service, pricing are all part of the SWOT part of it. But now let's the 4 P's part of it. Now let's look at it slightly differently. I'll try to give you an example, and then we'll see how it works. I gave one example and not give you the actual example that I have in mind. I have an Airtel service coming up in my neighborhood. They've been digging up the road and they've been putting up the towers. And then they say that, sir, we have some Sankranti offer coming to you, brilliant pricing. And I tell you, really excellent pricing that they have. But I can't switch right now because I already have paid for my existing internet provider, and for that pricing that I paid, I get 2 months additional free. So this is my position. So while the bargaining power of mine is there that I can switch, there's something which is holding me back from switching. And what could that be? Anybody?
Quality of the product.
Quality of the, no, I guess not quality of the product. Anything else?
You have paid in
customer loyalty.
Yeah, play around the word customer loyalty by 180 degrees. Don't look at it as customer loyalty. Use the same word, but use it from the company's point of view.
So it's like how long they can exist, because there are already several players who have done well. Being a new entrant,
incentivize
what I'm looking at. Good.
Incentivize long-term relation.
Pardon?
Incentivize long-term relationship.
Incentivize long-term relationship. And can you complete the sentence? I'll give you the next line. Incentivize long-term relationship. And should I break my relationship,
will result in loss for the customer.
Will result in losses, which the benefit will result in loss of those benefits which I have accumulated over a period of time. Right? It's like the credit card points on my credit card. So I have accumulated about 1,000 points or 10,000 points. So now, just because I have these 10,000 points, I'll continue to use that service and not go and buy a new card, something like that. Okay. So now we're getting there. Now, what is the threat of substitutes? So now let me ask you a question. A substitute is coming and it's threatening me that it will take away my customers. Now, how do I make this? How do I fight this? I have all answers, and obviously I must tell you that don't hesitate to give me an answer. I have done this classes for 10 times, so I know them, and even otherwise I've completed the MBA course, of course. So the point is, take a shot at it. My next page itself has all the answers to it. So give me a shot. Let's see how you can do it. So a new guy comes and threatens to take away your customer. And then how do you fight that situation?
Maybe reposition yourself.
Reposition?
Is
Go ahead, take a shot.
work on STP. Work around STP.
Work around STP. Okay. Anybody else?
Professor, I mean, as a competitor who is already existing, we can say that we do not allow such new competitor to allow. For example, Deccan Airlines. So when
that is your answer is threat to new entrants. That's threat to new entrants. So a substitute comes and I switch, and of course I'm excited about the substitute and I'm willing to switch over to the substitute, but there's something that holds me back and I'm not able to switch that. Okay, let me good thoughts from all of you. Let me look at this. So I said the threat of new entrants, you guys gave me virtually brilliant answers, make the entry tough. So what do you do? Whoever is an operator in that thing, and very rightly you said, make it very, very tough for somebody to enter. There's no license available, so you cannot enter the thing. There was a company, if you remember my very first class I talked about the government liberalizing the economy. There was what was called the Bombay Club. The Bombay Club were those existing Indian industries who benefited from the fact that a new player was not getting in. That means to say there was only one Premier Padmini and there was only one Hindustan Motors. So they benefited because there was no third player. So they kept on arguing with the government saying that don't allow new players. Let it be licensing, Raj. Okay, take another 100 crores, feed yourself, but don't open up the market. So make the entry tough. So that is one way that you can do it. So as you rightly said, the cost of a new player entering into the market is so very tough. And the cost of entry, for example, if you look at a lot of tenders that come up from the government, they say that you must be minimum, you must have done business worth 10 crores, your company should have a value of so much, but I am a startup. How can I ever be able to do that? So lots and lots of new businesses are not even going to the startups because of the entry barrier. The entry barrier is so tough that I can't even bid for so many of the governmental projects. So that is how one will ensure that there's a threat of new entrants. The other problem that I just mentioned, because there is really an Airtel guy coming in my neighborhood, and there's an Airtel, there's Jio, and there is the existing player Act. So when the Airtel guy came and installed the cable tower and drew a cable out, I don't know, but I can't guess who did it. But next day morning, all those cables were cut. So what you do is the existing player will ensure that you just don't enter by damaging the cables of the new player. So one is threat of new entrants is by making the entry tough. The second is bargaining power of the customer. The customer says, I'll go away. I'm very happy with the kind of service that you have provided. I'm not happy with the hotel that of the hotel where I stayed. I'm going away. I don't like the airline in which I travel. I'm going away. Then the airline and the hotel says, sir, please go away. By the way, I want to tell you that on your Emirates Sky Rewards, there are 50,000 miles there. But if you switch, you will lose all those 50,000 miles. Or if you stop coming to my hotel, you will not benefit by the miles that you have accumulated. So make the exit expensive, the cost of exiting a service. I have a 1-year contract with Prime Video, or I have a 1-year contract with Act. So how do it's going to be very difficult. The bargaining power of the customer is gone the moment you sign an 11-month contract with your tenant. The moment you walk into the house and you notice that the water has got some problem, but you signed an 11-month contract, you have to abide by it. The cost of exit becomes expensive. So that is the second one. Threat of substitutes. Make the new technology adoption tough. That's exactly the thing, is that what would you do is that make the customer adopting to a new technology, make it very, very tough. I was an iOS user, and I want to move away from iOS to Android, or possibly the other way around, or whatever it is. But both these OSs are making it so difficult for me that transferring all my data and all that is not that smooth from one platform to another platform. So while Android may say this is the way to do it, iOS will find 101 ways to ensure that you don't move it. Well, I'm just giving you a B2C example, but it also happens in a lot of cases in a B2B example, where you move from one brand of machinery to another brand of machinery, or you have different OSs. It's very difficult. So you continue, despite new technologies coming in, you will ensure that you stay where you are. So I hope you guys get that. The third is bargaining power of the suppliers. Create alternate sources. The moment you start creating alternate sources, you then control. For a long time, what is OPEC? Can anybody give me a full form of OPEC? OPEC?
Operational excellence.
No. That would be
okay. OPEC. That is OPEC. Sorry.
OPEC. Okay. OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They are a cartel. They are an organization of petroleum exporting countries. So they will always ensure that the cost of the crude oil is kept high at all the time. So you don't really you are at the mercy of the supplier. But once you start creating alternate sources, once you notice that, for example, America started discovering shale gas or shale oil, which is an alternate source of oil from within Earth. So now they get worried about it. Oh my God, there's an alternate source. And there's also the factor that once the cost of crude oil goes to $108 or $110, solar energy may become cheaper, ethanol may become cheaper. And so once the bargaining power of the supplier could be managed by creating alternate sources. So this is the counter to Porter's five forces. Finally, competing rivalry within the industry means that two guys are competing with each other, they kill each other, and as a result, the industry collapses. So how do you do that? You ensure that there is good harmony between each other. The industry has a common forum. For example, does anybody know what is COAI? COAI, I think. COAI? Or there's one, I mean, maybe I got the off. Okay, there's an organization which ensures that all the telecom operators are all united under a single.
It's a TROI. It's TROI.
No, TROI is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. That's the government which ensures that these guys don't COAI.
Is it Cellular Operators Association of India?
Cellular Operators. Yeah, I just couldn't get CO, Cellular Operators Association of India. So who is there? Who is members of Cellular Operators Association of India? All the cellular operators. What do they say? Hey guys, let's gather for tea and coffee. So initially, Jio was refusing to be part of COAI because they wanted to be a rebel. So then what happens when they all join hands together? They say, let's keep the data price fixed. Let's ensure that anybody who has defaulted on the payment is not allowed to switch to another mobile portability stuff. So one way in which you can do. The other way in which you can do is you can cartel, meaning that when these government tenders come up, for example, when these government tenders come, the government is, I cannot name the company, but I remember when I used to work earlier, there used to be this government tender for air conditioners, the government tender for huge plant air conditioners and things like that, or office or air conditioners for a large requirement. So there would be 1, 2, 3 companies which would all bid. But what would happen is, because the quantity of the tender is so high, each would virtually fight with another to get it, be a rupee less or a rupee more, but eventually start losing out because you want to kill the other one. So what they all decided was, let's all meet over a day before the tender and we will all quote the same price. So we'll all quote the same price, and so the order will get split and we live healthily and we make more money. So this is called carteling. Carteling is very, very bad. Carteling is when the industry gangs up to take the customer or the government for a ride. This happens all the time. This happens all the time. If you notice, without us noticing, there is carteling happening in the industry also. All the medical companies are all carteling with each other to ensure that the cost of sanitizer is still high, the cost of basic vitamins that we use or the painkillers that we use are still high, because they want to make sure that they stay in a very healthy industry. The parameter for carteling is, when is carteling successful? Carteling is successful when you have a leader. When you have one big leader who has something like 60–70% of the market share, and that leader dictates how it works. For example, carteling, De Beers is a diamond company. So they virtually ensure that everybody fall in line and behave according to the guidelines of De Beers. If anybody tries to behave like a rogue player, breaking away from the cartel, what De Beers would do is, in the market that player is operative, they will drop their prices by 60–70% to ensure that that rogue operator is out and then come back to the operator. So this is what I wanted to talk about Porter's 5 forces. Porter's 5 forces are those 5 things which could impact an industry or impact a company, and how does a company look at it to fight them out. Any questions on this before we switch on to another subject? What are these slides which are below? If that's your question, these are slides for you to read. It'll give you more explanation of each of those points that we have described. But in short, this is what the conversation is all about. So is there something on the chat? Cellular Operators Association of India. Okay, good. So if you're done with this, we will move into another point of discussion, which is, what could that be? Share screen. You can see the screen? Yes, no, okay.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, okay. So let's get you guys rolling on this. Do you know these companies? Are they known to you, unknown to you? Which one?
Yeah, logos of different companies.
Logos of different companies. Brilliant. But now, which companies are these, by the way? You know, any
One is BP.
Bharat Petroleum, first one.
now you should probably say A1 is Bharat Petroleum Limited.
Yeah, A2 is Toyota.
Oh,
A3.
is it Bharat Petroleum?
It's British Petroleum.
Oh, sorry.
British
Petroleum.
Okay. What about the next one?
P3 is Unilever.
Unilever,
Nestle.
Pepsi,
Linux,
Linux.
Then B1.
Boeing,
BMW,
Amazon, AT&T,
T-Mobile,
Mitsubishi,
Adobe,
Microsoft,
Accenture, Capgemini,
Sun Microsystems.
And this one?
Not sure.
Oh, is there a company called Not Sure?
No, sir.
Oh, you mean you're not sure? Okay. Okay. Good job. Excellent. Smart guys. Let's see how smart are you when it comes to local stuff.
BSNL, Mahindra, Asian Paints, Indian Oil, Nishk,
HP.
Air India.
HP. Okay.
Where's HP?
It's Indian
What
Oil.
is HP?
A4.
Petroleum.
Airports Authority of India.
Airport Authority of India. Okay. What about
Yes.
A5? What is A5?
Tanishq.
Okay. B2.
B2,
IRCTC.
And
Reliance Mobile,
Reliance, Canada Bank,
Canada Bank,
Okay.
Colors.
Life insurance, I think. No.
Which one? C1 is life insurance.
No.
T series,
C2, T series, India Post,
Other.
Okay. And what is this? C1.
ITC Hotel.
ITC. Okay. And C5.
C5 is other.
C4 is other, right?
Sorry, okay.
C5 is.
C5 is again.
Edgeverb.
No. Which one?
Edgeverb.
Edgeworm. No. Whoever answers C5 is exempted from writing the exam. Whoever answers C5 will get full marks on assignment 2. I'm giving all kinds of crazy hints to tell you what is C5. If you've known me for 6 classes, you should be able to guess what prank is the professor playing with you. No, can't think.
No.
Okay, of course, there's no way any one of you can guess the answer, because it's an unknown brand. It's not as popular a brand as so many of them that you did. This is a minuscule brand called Aniara. It's my company's logo. So obviously you wouldn't know it, but that's what is branding all about, right? Just because you can jump and get excited at the moment you look at a logo like Tanishq or a look at a logo like Mahindra, it doesn't mean that anybody else can put up a logo and assume that the customer would understand and give a value for your logo. So this is my company, and obviously it doesn't mean much to it. So what we are discussing now is a subject called branding, and branding is very, very important, because the moment you look at this, something happens to you. The moment you look at the logo called A5, I'm sure Nikita would say, I think if there was no curfew, I would have liked to go and buy some gold. Or if you look at ITC, you look at, oh my God, I think it's time for me to go and take a holiday or something like that. So a brand does something to you. And what we're going to discuss over the next, whatever time is left, over the next, looking at what is a brand, how do you play around with a brand, and how and what are the attributes of a brand. Okay, so the subject is called branding, of course. That's an oxymoron statement. And what is a brand? How does a branding work? Advantage of a strong brand. Brand extensions, evaluating brand extensions. So what is a brand? So what, in your opinion, would be a good definition of a brand from each one of you?
It is an identity.
It's an identity.
Identity of a company.
Yeah, very good. It's an identity. So I'll tell you what, let's see, because sometimes I won't know who's speaking. So that's why. Okay. So say, not here.
Vintage here.
Yeah, Venkatesh. See, I want you to think of a brand when you're making this sentence. So what are you saying? Brilliant. I want others to also join. It gives you an identity. It gives the company an identity. Then what else does it do?
It creates a image or a perception with customers.
One is it creates the company. The second, it creates some perception in the
with customers.
mind of the customer.
Customer mind.
Okay, so
easy recognition.
It gives you an instantaneous recognition, and what else does it do?
It says the position of the company in a pool of competition.
Okay, so yeah, very good. Yeah, anything else? Okay, brilliant. So you're saying that it gives you a position, it gives you identity, and then it gives some perception in a customer's mind. And then what do you do with all this? Or what is the benefit of all this exercise? What is the benefit of all this? Why does the company have to go through all of this exercise? For what?
To increase the sales profit.
To increase the sales.
To be a market leader.
To be a market leader.
To help customers identify the products from a specific company without putting much effort.
But
Create
very true. Correct.
Create a brand value in the market.
Create a brand value in the market.
So this will win the customer. It will trust. Customer will trust this brands.
No. Say that again.
It will win the trust of the customer actually. For something, the Maruti
Win
means
the
people
trust of a customer. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Customer
Okay.
loyalty.
Customer loyalty. Okay, brilliant. So let's look at one of them. Let's look at one of them. So what happens when I say I have an HMT watch, and I truly have an HMT watch. I love this collection of HMT watches. So I tell you that I have an HMT watch, whereas Alicia will come and say, I have a Rolex. So now what's happening? Now,
Sir, brand defines a company.
The brand defines a company. Does it also define the individual?
It defines the product, pricing as well.
It defines the pricing. What do you think of me? What do you think of me when I tell you that I have an HMT watch? And what, in your opinion, is about Anusha Prabhu when she says I have a Rolex, or I don't know, I can't think of another. There's so many of them. Yeah. So what goes in your mind? What do you think about Anusha, and what do you think of me when I tell you I have an HMT and I have a Rolex?
Luxury.
Sophistication.
Sophistication. So you're concluding that I'm as rustic as possible and she's very sophisticated?
Suppose if it is HMT, if somebody think that there are two categories.
Correct,
One
correct.
thing that
Yeah, perfect.
So one thing that he is very good in, he's like antique collections, and it's very good, having a very good taste. And second, people think that they have less money. Those don't have the value of antiques.
Right. That's provided you know HMT, right? It's provided I tell a European guy I have an HMT watch. I mean, he wouldn't care a damn, right? Okay, so that's one. So then of course, what happens when you look at Bata versus Roche versus Sri Leathers? I mean, I like this company called Sri Leathers because I think they make some good products. So similarly, I'll not go too far into the statement and hang on there. So something happens in your mind. Not only are you defining the what do you call the company, but to some extent you're also branding the user. To some extent, I'll tell you. I'll tell you a very unique example. Is that I once visited a very large broadcaster. I once visited a very large broadcaster in Delhi, and most of the broadcasters are in Delhi. Now, these broadcasters have a plush office in plush corporate office in the heart of Delhi or something, but they also have a technical broadcasting center, which is in the middle of nowhere because the antenna has to look into the skies, and it's probably mostly in Greater Noida and some other place. So because I was traveling from Bangalore, I had hired myself a cab, and probably it was a Toyota Carteling or whatever. That was a much high-end car. Okay. So whereas this gentleman who's the owner of this company had a very old rustic Ford. Okay. So he said, okay, come Ramesh, I'll take you to my factory or to my broadcast center. So we went along, and it's not very operative. It's just very few people there. So the security, the moment he saw me sitting in the back seat with a chauffeur in the front, the guy didn't even stop me. He just gave me a royal salute and allowed me inside. Whereas right behind me was a guy driving his Ford, and he got stopped. it was the owner of the company. It was actually the boss of the security. And he kept asking me, "Aap kyun aaye ho? Aapka ID dikhao," and all that. And that guy was fuming, saying that, "Listen, man, I own this, and you ask me one more question, you lose your job." So many a time, the perception may be twofold. The perception is not just what the brand does to you, but what does the user of a brand demonstrate to the outside world. So that is the other one. There's of course this thing which is AB versus AK. What do I mean by AB versus AK? Let's see. Anybody, can you complete what am I saying here? AB versus AK. No, can't think. Are you guys there? Yeah.
No, we don't think it's your own company again.
You're not able to understand AB versus AK.
Amitabh Bachchan versus Akshay Kumar.
Ah, okay. Okay, I wanted that. I really wanted that. I'll tell you why. When I typed this, I meant Amitabh Bachchan versus Amir Khan.
Okay.
Now, I have noticed that every class, I haven't changed the slide, every class, I think of this as AB versus AK, meaning Amitabh Bachchan versus Amir Khan. And every one of you have kept the AB right. Obviously, there is only one AB, but you guys have never told Amir Khan. And you always have been talking about Akshay. So anyway, so that is again the brand perception. There are more brands for us to discuss, but we are not here to discuss too many of the brands. Now, what is the role of a brand? Now look at this product. So when you look at this, what does it give you? The very word Tanishq gives you a feeling of sophistication, gives you a feeling that this is something which is because they have painfully built the brand, and the fact that it's a Tata product means that it is there's a certain amount of quality associated with it. Next, what is this logo? Can anybody tell me what is this logo?
Sir, it's Tez.
Tez.
Yes.
What
sir.
is Tez?
It was what Google Pay was branded initially.
Then what happened?
They changed it to Google Pay, sir.
Why?
Because they penetrated the market.
But why did they keep it as Tez?
To have an Indian connect.
To have an Indian connect. Okay. What else? Think. Okay. Good. Well done. I mean, I was trying to shake you up, but you've been holding on well. So it was Tez. It was a UPI thing, right? Okay. And then they changed it to Google Pay. But why didn't they not start off with Google Pay? Google is a great brand. Did anybody disagree that it's a great brand? Google is this, right? I mean, I Google. That's a noun now. Yeah. So why would they not want to keep it as Google Pay?
So people wouldn't trust Google as much with their money as they do with their searches.
And now, are you trusting now?
Yes, sir.
What happened? Why did you?
Initially, for targeting the Indian market, they wanted to term as some touchy word, like which is unique for Indians, like by the word "Tez" means speed or fast transfer of money, something like that. So they started with that, keeping that in mentality. But later they have changed when the people got trusting over the company. Then they moved over to Google Pay.
Okay, I know who's speaking, but can you totally, your answer is correct, but totally reverse your answer.
So the brand Google is known for something that is completely unrelated to security.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you one more shot at it. I'll tell you, I used to work for a company called NEC. I don't know how many of you know a company called NEC, Nippon something. I don't know, whatever, the NEC Japan, NEC, as simple as that, NEC Japan. So we were sponsoring an event. And we wanted to put up NEC logos all over Bombay and Bangalore. So, my God, by the time I got the Japanese to agree to it, I went through hell. They wanted 50 samples of the print to ensure that the NEC blue is the actual NEC blue that gets printed. Point number one. They wanted maybe 50 pictures of each location where the brand is going to be. They want to make sure that this brand is not near blah, 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 blah places, maybe not near a liquor shop or all the stuff, all the too very complex. And finally, of course, we got an approval, but they were so careful about the use of their logo. And so now the general perception of Google was that Google had a great brand in India. Of course, unlike in China, where Google could be seen as a competitor to Baidu and other products, in India, whatever Google had experimented with, right from Google search to Google Mail and even their whatever the other apps that they have been generally very successful. So Google's attempt in India, in a very critical market, you lose this market, you're gone, right? I mean, this is the big market. They didn't want to mess it up. And last of all, they didn't want to mess up their name. So what they did was to introduce it as Tez and get the pulse of the customer. And of course, they had the best technology behind it. And so Tez was brilliant. Tez got adapted very quickly into the Indian lifestyle. And now with Google confident that if I will not be diluting my brand. As a matter of fact, this is the right time for me to introduce my brand into the system. So they mute. They came up with okay. So they came up with the Tez initially, and then have Google Pay later on. So that's one definition, but of course your definitions are all equally true. The second is, of course, Intel Inside. What does it convey? Intel Inside tells you that doesn't matter what's on the outside. It may be a locally assembled PC, but the very fact that there is Intel Inside, which is a sticker that's put on the outside, tells you that there is, while the exterior may not be as good, we have the best of the processors sitting inside. So that is what is the Intel Inside kind of a story. So we'll take a break now. It's been 9 o'clock and it's almost 10:30 now. So we'll take about a 15-minute break. And then it's about 10:30. So we'll assemble around 10:45. Is that fine?
Sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then we'll continue our process.
Yeah.
We painfully constructed one part of our conversation on what is the brand. But all along, we haven't actually dug up our learnings into putting all our learnings, SWOT analysis, and all that stuff that we talked about. We've not been able to put that in a case study. I made you put that in a case study, but I haven't myself used a case study to define all of that. So let me now take you on probably a 15 to 20 minutes ride on a case study, which I believe is an excellent case study for us to understand the various facets of marketing and how a company can come up from a troubled situation to be a market leader. So if I have your attention, so let's do one case study. Let's look at Tata as a company. Tata is a huge company. I mean, what do Tata call themselves? S to S. What could that sentence be? We are a company from S to S. Any idea? So diverse is their market that they say they are from salt to software. So there's a huge gamut of things that they do. And sometimes they have Tata tea, they have Tata namak, they have Tata watches, they have a group of hotels, and then they have some really selective things like Starbucks, Titan, Tanishq, and all that. The mass market is salt. I mean, salt market is salt and tea, I guess, lockdown or no lockdown, good weather or bad weather, we keep buying these products. There are things like watches and hotels, which are cyclic. They could face some competition, and they could be good weather opportunities, bad weather opportunities. But we use that to talk about the red ocean and the blue ocean. And Tata has a good mix of virtually everywhere. They have luxury in terms of real high-end cars, high-end hotels. They are in the red ocean with some very basic product. And they have some of TCS products which are very upmarket or maybe blue ocean for the industry that they work with. But our conversation today, and I'll try to time it up, our conversation today is primarily about Tanishq. Who doesn't like Tanishq? I mean, the very, if you're Indian and if you don't like gold, there's something wrong with you, right? So gold, historically, we buy gold for many reasons. And of course, our wives tell us and our children tell us that we should buy, or more precisely, our wives tell us that we should buy gold. Oh, not for me, but it's just that it's a good way of investment. But then they're more interested in the ornamental value of it than the gold value of it. But that's beside the point. So when Titan or Tata, with their wonderful success with Titan, Titan is one of the greatest success stories. What is that? Okay, with Titan was one of the success stories of Tata. They said that we should take our leverage of our success in Titan and move into a jewelry business. And this I'm talking about in 1995, long back in history. So they plunged, they called it Tanishq. It was a great name, is what they thought. And 3 years later, their performance was disastrous. They just were not able to move an inch to break through the various barriers of competition, customer trust, customer confidence, market share, and all that stuff. They went very bad. So finally, they said, I think we should stop. Tanishq was a bad idea, but at least let's try to find out what went wrong. Let's get some great marketing research experts to do a kind of an analysis as to what went wrong, and at least give a reason for us to close down our Tanishq operations. But before we get to understand the story further, you should understand, just like the movie 1983, for you to better understand the movie, you should understand the situation of the Indian cricket team in 83. And similarly, you must understand how was the jewelry industry in 1995. The jewelry industry is not like today. Today, they are IPOs. I think PC Jewelers is IPO. Kalyan Jewelers is also probably is listed in the stock exchange. Very, very professionally run, but not then. It was completely an unorganized sector. It was a completely unorganized sector. People bought jewel from their family jewelers. And all the time, I always buy gold from my family jeweler because my father bought it from him and my grandfather bought it from that guy's father. And so there's a huge amount of bonding between a family jeweler, especially if you are in tier 2 cities and you have come to tier 1. That means to say, let's say you are in Hubli or Bangalore and you come to Bangalore, you still will go back and buy gold from that small guy in your neighborhood whom you know him very well, who has seen you as a kid and now ready to sell you for your wedding or something like that. So that's one reason people buy gold from a certain sect of people. Tradition plays a very important role. You look at Raukal and all that stuff before you go and buy gold. And you probably dress in the most traditional attire and go. And gold is an obsession. People will borrow money to buy gold for their daughter's marriage. And you don't walk in just like that to a showroom and buy gold. You go with your parents, you go with your grandparents, and you go with X, Y, Z, and it's a huge idea of going there. Now, when Tata started with their, or rather Titan started with their idea, there was a corporate name attached to it. Who buys gold from a corporation? Who buys gold from an industry which is into trucks and salt? No way would, what does Tata know about jewelry? Yeah, probably they did well in watches, but they did not so good. I mean, they are not qualified to give advisors on gold jewelry. We have our own family jewelers who do that. And what was Titan trying to say? At 1995, Titan said, let's make buying gold a fun event. And I'll sell you 18 karat gold. And I'll give you lots of Western design. Oh my God. This had a totally different brand and image on the mind of the people. So Titan said that let's find out where we went wrong and how is it that we could correct ourselves. So with this background, first thing that they found out was that Western design had few takers. Nobody wanted to buy gold jewelry which had Western designs. They all wanted, traditional Indian design, temple designs, whatever that is. And 18 karat gold, no way would anybody be serious about it. 18 karat gold is not gold, and there's no value attached to it. And so they lost customer confidence. The product was wrong, the product positioning was wrong, and their branding was wrong. Why? Because they didn't have any unique selling point. They didn't know what was their positioning. Who were they positioning the product for? Who were they positioning for? The independent woman who has just joined a job and working? Or is it for the teenager? Or is it for the daughter? Is it for the daughter-in-law? Is it for the mother? Is it for the grandmother? Because everybody is involved in purchasing the jewel. So Titan was totally lost. is where do I position my product? And the result was it didn't do well. But the most easiest thing for you to do is to move from 18 karat to 22 karat. So from overnight, Titan said, okay, guys, scrap all that Western designs. Let's go traditional. 18 is the dirty word. Let's go 22 karat. Boom, they did that. So product modification and generalization could be good, but it could have a counter effect. Let's see what happens. So they did that. But do you think just by moving that, they were able to do it? They started understanding the competition. They said, why is it that despite a 22 karat gold now, why is it that people don't trust a super brand like Tata? Is because there's something unique about our competitor. What is unique about the competitor? The absolute faith in the jeweler. They completely trusted the jeweler, and whatever he gave, whatever price that he quoted was the perfect price that he would, and there was no question about it. Not only that, when you gave away your jewel in exchange for the other jewelry from your known jeweler, he would always say that the other jewel is an inferior quality and then it had less jewel content, and he would always give a much lower price. That is another problem. They started understanding all this through a market research. Know your competition is good, but in this case, know your enemy is also equally important. Then there was no mechanism for old gold exchange. What was the mechanism? What is the methodology? And lastly, they were isolated. They were never together. They were individual outlets in small locations, and each addressing a very captive market, meaning that there was a gold jeweler in Baswangudi. So he addressed all his customers in Baswangudi. The guys in Jayanagar wouldn't normally go there. I'm kind of exaggerating the situation. That's point number 4 or 5. And lastly, there was poor documentation. He never gave you a receipt. He never gave you a bill. So this is what the market research of Titan, Tanishq came up with once they realized something was wrong. So the first thing they did was to squash that faith without proof. The customer never trusted the purity of the gold. So what would happen is, if you were to use standard mechanisms, then you actually had to rub that jewelry against a touchstone and you lost some gold in the process. So Titan said, we will show you the proof of how good is the jewelry that you're wearing. They introduced a method called carat meter, which was a non-contact testing machine. So you keep the jewel inside the box, it would use some combination of rays and frequencies, and it would come up with a proof. So now, what did Titan say? Don't buy my jewelry. Bring your jewelry, check your own jewelry and see whether it is correct or not. So people who are even hesitant to walk into the Titan showroom actually started walking in, not to buy, but to check the gold that they have. And what did they notice? That over 60% of the gold that they had was definitely not 22 carats. And in many cases, it was even less than 18 carats, which means that your local jeweler was making a fool of you. This started the customer to, one, align his confidence with the existing family jeweler, look at Titan a little more differently, and then slowly the footfalls started happening. And obviously, sales started developing. That was one, the failure, faith without proof. The second thing they noticed was that there was no pricing mechanism. So, there is to say that if you want to buy gold, you must buy in Mumbai or you must buy in Kochi where it is cheaper and all that. So buyers were always confused. So Titan saw this as a great opportunity and said, we'll do a uniform pricing. Doesn't matter in which part of the world, which part of India would you buy, there would be one pricing. So one pricing in India. And most importantly, what is that one price? That one price is also taggable to the price of gold in the London Metal Exchange. So it is possible for you to go look at the London Metal Exchange pricing, and you can correlate it with what is the pricing in India. So there you go. The other big competition that they faced with various pricing was squashed, and Titan was able to build customer confidence and trust on the pricing mechanism that they were willing to offer. Third, that they did was that loyalty is a two-way street, meaning that you always use the word customer loyalty. But that means that the customer is loyal to you, but you must also have what is called a customer trust. And I see a lot of that sometimes being misused. I have the security guard near my house or in my building. And it stopped, of course, but at one time the guy used to go overboard that every 1 month he would flaunt a new headphone. So I would say, how the hell do you get so many of them, and how it's so expensive? How do you buy them? So he said, "Nice sir, मैं ले लेता हूँ, 15 दिन के बाद return कर देता हूँ, बोलता हूँ खराब है or something like that." So at one point it is trust of the customer, but you overdo it, we wouldn't really do it. Then I had to stop him because he was using our PIN code to do this, and eventually the mechanism at Amazon says that people in this PIN code do the fooling thing. So I had to bring him. But anyway, bringing it back to thing, what Titan said is that we trust you. So once you take the gold, go back home, and for some reasons you don't like it, come back, no questions asked, we'll give you 100% refund. So that's what delighted the customer and said it was never so in the case of the earlier thing. So they said, come back, the very easy exchange and return policy. So as you can see, the line that I've added is trust and loyalty. Trust is what the company has on you. Loyalty is what the customer has on you, is the two sides of the same coin. So they were able to address the pricing mechanism. They were able to address old jewelry or whatever pricing mechanism. They were able to address the 22 karat. They were able to address the quality. And now, what did they notice? They noticed that these competition were isolated and had a very, very captive customer base. So what did Titan do? Titan had two options. Titan could set up 50 Titan outlets in 50 cities, or they could do what is called carpet bombing. So what Titan did is, instead of going into 50 cities and one outlet in each city, they went with multiple outlets in each city, which meaning that they had an outlet in Jayanagar, Malleshwaram, Indranagar, all these things, because they were able to address the captive crowd of that market. So that way, each of the captive competition that was out there was able to be addressed. So this is how Titan started moving. Further, they now were able to conquer all the facts that they were looking at. Then poor documentation was obviously not mentioned here, but was obviously very well addressed. And they said that, of course, they give you all the document to that effect and all that. So now, having got rid of the competition, they had to now do something else to increase their revenue. They became a leader. They were able to get rid of the competition. Now, how do I move? How do I scale up? How do I increase my sales volume? They made a couple of things. One is low entry. They made the minimum value of the article that you can buy is 4,000 rupees, which means that Anusha could just, she's happy today because she performed. She could just walk into a Titan showroom and for as much as 4,000 rupees, it's not a big money, 4,000 rupees, she doesn't even have to tell up friends or parents or anybody. She can just walk in there and buy herself. So what did they do? Lowered the entry barrier. So they said, come buy yourself for 4,000 for any occasion. Customer satisfaction program. They did multiple things to make the customer, like feedbacks and things like that. And corporate gold gift scheme. So it is possible that for Sankranti or Diwali, the corporate could give you a Titan or a Tanishq coupon. And so that's one more thing that they started doing. Say, then they entered into smaller towns, and then they even started financing. So what is the goal here? Change the rules of the game and move the goalposts so that nobody can really catch up with. So today, Titan is an established world leader. I mean, a leader in India on Tanishq. They are reliable and trusty. And there's an old ad, Deepika is there inviting you to drop by to the Tanishq showroom. So this is one small case study that I wanted to present to you guys to understand how things work here. How all the products and all the things that we discussed, the challenge that we faced along our 6 classes, how they were put into use. But does it mean that the same thing can be employed in every success story? Great. Titan has become a big name with Tanishq jewelry. But do you think Tata can launch skin and be equally successful? Is the market similar to jewelry? Is it the same user group? Is loyalty actually a word when it comes to perfumes and things like that? And what kind of a profile do we have? A lot of people don't buy perfumes locally, they buy internationally. So each previous performance is no guarantee of present performance. That's what they say in the mutual funds. And lots of water has flown down the Ganges since the time that Tata was able to get there. So, if you guys have any questions on this case study, let me know. We can discuss for a moment. Otherwise, we'll continue our conversation. Done? Okay. So let's go back to new share. Wait, I think I possibly have to open that. Branding. Okay, so back to branding. And so we discussed this far, we went here. So the role of a brand is that it identifies the maker. The second thing that a brand does is it does barrier to entry. That means that I don't know how many of you know what is Priority Pass and Emirates Skywards. These are cards that I possess when I travel by flight or when I travel abroad. So if I have this card, I can go and use the lounge facilities. And so, that's a great brand to have, and to share the fact that I have an Emirates Skyward card means that I am a frequent flyer. I fly high quality, high maybe business class, and I get some unique privileges. So for you to enter to be a Emirates Skyward or a Priority Pass member, you need to qualify. You need to maybe spend certain amount of money on your credit card, or you must travel so many times a year. So brand creates a barrier to entry. And this is kind of a little bit of a dated slide, but in the initial classes, we used to have a company called Bueller. And I don't know, anybody from Bueller here? I thought I saw one.
Yeah, I'm Venkatesh. This is Venkatesh.
Venkatesh from Bueller. So Venkatesh, this is Sortex. You know what is Sortex, right?
Yes, Professor.
I don't. I mean, you know the product well. So the quality. Let me tell the remaining guys what is Sortex. Bueller has some very unique machine. Or Venkatesh, you've been sitting in my class. Can you give an introduction to Sortex for 1 minute, and why Sortex as a brand signifies quality?
Yeah, I can say it is one of the most familiar product of Bueller. It has a higher out of the total products, Sortex is one of the key products. This is used for sorting the impurities. Say, for example, you take a wheat. While processing the wheat, we need to segregate the impurities which resembles like color of wheat. So it uses a high technology camera which senses the impurities and it segregates. So that is one of the premier machines, I would say, from Bueller.
Yeah. So when somebody like this Pashupati Rice, so they, of course, this is like saying Intel Inside, saying that Pashupati Rice says that, hey guys, you can trust my rice. Of course, it's good rice. But most importantly, we have used Sortex, which is the brand name of Bueller, to clear out bad particles or particles which are similar to rice, look like rice, but maybe or stone. So that the very fact that you have a Sortex rice means that it's a better quality. So the other one point is there. Good. Thanks, Venkatesh. Well done. Good job. Yes. The second thing is the role of a brand. It provides you competing or competitive advantage. Bisleri versus Evian. Do I have to say anything more? The very word when I say Evian, there was a time when I would travel, and first thing that my son would, when on my return, would ask me, did you bring a bottle of Evian? And of course, I did bring him a bottle of Evian, and that bottle of Evian was used for 6 months, refilled every time at home. But my son showing it off, saying that he's been drinking Evian water, and Evian water is probably 10 times or 20 times more costlier than Bisleri water. So what does the brand do? The brand gives you an unequal advantage over the other brand. And I could be fighting with my neighboring store, saying that why does he charge me 11 rupees for a 10 rupees Bisleri water, when he's saying, no, sir, it's cooling, 1 rupee for refrigeration. But I'll close my eyes and pay 150 rupees for a bottle of Evian. And it's the same water. It's the same H2O. So brands can allow you to charge a premium. No better example than Apple that give you that. Brands give you a sense of confidence in terms of the quality that they provide. The very fact that there's an Apple brand, it tells you that this is quality product. Or if you want to play around, and especially the women out here, you want to try out some fair cream on your face or something like that, would you risk a non-popular brand, or would you buy a popular brand like P&G when you're sure that it will not do any damage to your skin? So that's what is the power of a brand do. The very word that the word Tesla or Apple or P&G means. Incidentally, one of the recent conversations that I was reading on Twitter is that one thing that Apple was able to achieve was to kill the manual. In the sense, Apple has been so successful in the UI of their products that these products or the user interface is so beautifully designed that you don't need a manual to teach you how to use the device. It's just so intuitive that you will find what you're looking for wherever that is. So that's the beauty of the brand, and I'm sure some of you will agree for it. Second is brand equity, meaning that the brand itself has money. The brand is money. Forget the fact that the product is useless or the company is useless. The brand is still a brilliant brand. The brand like Kingfisher, despite what Malia did to the company, despite what the companies went through, the brand Kingfisher, I mean, we are talking about this in a morning class, 9 to 12, but if we were to be talking in an evening session, 5 to 7, I guess some of us would be heading a different way at the end of the class. So the brand Kingfisher still has so much of it, even when the product is dead, even when the ownership of the owners behind the product is dead. So brands bring in money. There is money in the brand alone. That's one thing. Second is brand gives you a knowledge, or the very brand gives you some kind of a thought. So the moment I say Disneyland, there's some feeling that goes into your mind. The moment I talk about Amul, there's a thought of ice cream going. Or the moment I say Indigo, you get the feeling that arrival in time or whatever that is. So this is what brands can do. Finally, we'll get into another point, which is brand extension. And is there another one? Oh, okay. Brand extension and line extension. So let's look at, I'm going to take up a neutral slide and look at it. Okay, brand extension and line extension. Don't look at this slide from what is there. Look at this slide only in the logo that they are. So if Indigo is a brilliant company and delivers travel from location A to location B, and the Indigo owners want to diversify into another business, which is the business do you think they will go, in your opinion?
Hospitality.
They could go into hospitality. Okay.
Cab services, catering.
Cab services. Okay. Very
Logistics.
good. Logistics. Excellent. Okay. What else? Okay. Good. Perfect. So you're saying if I can deliver two people, somebody said hospitality, somebody said logistics. So let me look at logistics. If I can safely take a person from location A to location B, I can definitely, in time, that is, I can definitely take your goods from location A to location B in time, and you can come to us. So you take advantage of the brand Indigo and move it up. Now, hospitality is something that somebody said. You're saying that if I can treat you very well, give you a good service, make sure that your check-in is as convenient as possible, that you have a hassle-free entry into the aircraft, and less fuss around you, we know what you need. We know what you need. So our hotels are going to be equally brilliant for you because you know what it is. And obviously, having traveled from location A to location B, where do you want to stay? Why not stay in my hotel? So it's a smoother transition to a service. Now, Amul, what do you think they would be doing? What would Amul be doing? What is the new line of businesses would they like to enter? Any thoughts?
Professor, frozen packed foods.
Frozen fruits, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, food processing.
Food processing. Okay. Anything else? How many of you have heard of a brand called Amul Innerwear? I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's all over all television channels.
Yeah, it is coming in the TV. Right?
Coming. Amul Innerwear. Of course, it's nothing to do with the Amul that we are talking about. But somebody is actually using the quality that's associated with that name and delivering a totally divergent product like innerwear. So that's the other issue that might happen. So what is happening here is there are two ways in which you can grow a brand. You can grow what is called a brand extension or a line extension. So let's look at Indigo as an example that you gave. Somebody said Indigo will move to cab services. It's still associated with travel. It's still associated with travel efficiency. So that is a line extension. He is saying that we will also go ahead and do logistics, which is still associated with travel, which is still associated with efficiency, but except that it's going into a different sector, but the same, subsector. So it's still the same brand getting into a line extension, a line of similar sounding products. But Indigo, let's say, starts opening up fast food restaurants. He said hotels, which was also perfect, but in some way you travel by Indigo and then you stay in the same hotel. So it might also end up being a line extension. So to avoid that discussion, I'm saying that let's Indigo opens up fast food restaurants, or it's what's the word? QSR. Quick serve restaurants, it's called. That's the new word, QSR. So what would Indigo say? Now, there's nothing to do with the primary product of Indigo. They are taking the brand and delivering the image that the brand has got into a totally different area, which is food services. Now, this is not line extension, but this is called brand extension. So I hope you guys get the difference between line extension and brand extension. So if assuming that Amul also owns that company called Amul Innerwear, is that line extension or brand extension?
It's a brand extension.
Brand extension.
So sometimes the brand extension could backfire. Let's assume that Harpic is a great brand. Harpic is a super brand, right? I mean, I'm sure there's no house which doesn't have Harpic in their washrooms and things like that. So now Harpic wants to extend and get into new products. So they could, of course, let's say they do a brand extension. So Harpic is anyway sitting in the washroom. Why don't we have Harpic toothpaste? Now, that's a bad brand extension. It could be disastrous. I mean, did you brush your teeth with Harpic today? Would be a big trouble. But Harpic could move from saying that washing commodes or whatever it is to washing the walls of a toilet could be a line extension. So I want you guys to understand the concept of line extension and brand extension. So these are all line extension. Coke coming up with various versions of Coke is line extension. FedEx coming with different types of services is line extension. Brand extension is using the success of P&G in shampoo market and delivering diapers and things like that is a brand extension. So with this, we have completed one more topic called branding. You guys have any questions on this? Needless to say, you'll get a few questions. If you are ready and you've understood, we can.
Professor, I have one question.
Yes.
Regarding line extension or say per se brand extension, whether same company, like for example, we take Amul, whether Amul and Amul Innerwear are the same companies?
No. Actually, Amul can go and take a legal action on them, but
so my question is, we can't use other brand to start a new firm which is not related to that brand.
Yeah. Of course not. You know what? So you're saying that using the great brand value that Amul has built on their, Amul meaning Anand Milk Union, has built on their dairy products. Can somebody use that brand and use it to sell their innerwear? Unless and until Amul is doing that stupid thing. But then they do have IRMA, Institute of Rural Management. So they are an MBA, they have an MBA institute itself, they'll never do that. But somebody who's using Amul brand is actually illegal and he could be into trouble. But he may have a different idea. I mean, he may have defended himself very well. Just to give you an idea how funny and tricky this world is, how many of you know a company called McDonald's? Is there anybody who knows McDonald's or doesn't know McDonald's? May raise their hand. Super brand, right? I mean, especially if you're driving on a highway, the big arc M, they start putting up that M 20 kilometers before the Mac outlet is, and then you start liking it. You start thinking of their they have that ice cream called Softies and burgers, and more these ads you see, you will definitely going and parking yourself there. But McDonald's is not an Indian brand. McDonald's came to India, I don't remember when, but for the purpose of discussion, purely for the purpose of discussion, let's assume that McDonald's came to India in 1990, and very likely so, 90 or even a little bit late. So when McDonald's came to India, the first outlet that they wanted to have was in Bangalore. So they came up, they said, oh, no place like Bangalore, no place like MG Road, or no place like Brigade Road. Let's set up our Mac outlet. And so we were super excited to, and as much younger than what I was today, looking forward to it. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, the shop is not opening. And most importantly, that famous arc, the golden arc, they have just covered it with something and it's going on. So we asked, what is happening? Why is this happening? Oh, they said, oh, there's a big problem. There's a legal case. What is a legal case? Somebody in Bangalore has put a legal case against McDonald's for using his logo. So what do you mean? Yes, McDonald's has copied this company's logo. And so they are not allowing McDonald's to start because they have used the logo, just like Amul underwear using Amul ice creams. So what was this? So the fact of the matter was that there was this ceramic company. I cannot get into too many details. You guys search out for yourself because this company does exist and it's a powerful brand by its own company. This ceramic distribution company in Bangalore had on their outlets the same arc M, but that M standing for the owner of the shop.
Murugappa Group.
So what is that?
Murugappa Group.
No. Google and find out. Okay, it's not a manufacturer, it's a distributor.
Okay.
It's a distributor outlet. So strange are the ways of the world, strange are the ways of the democratic world. So when somebody raises an issue, they had to fight it. Mac had to justify it. It takes time. Justice doesn't happen overnight. Injustice takes time. So the entire launch of Mac was lost for about 2 years. And eventually, you know what happened, who won it. And so sometimes branding somebody could use your brand and even the owner of the brand could be in big trouble. Is somebody saying something? Mac started in 1996. Yes. For a very long time, if any one of you are pure Bangaloreans, and if you see the Church Street, there's a thing called Sterling Mac. For a long time, as kids, we used to think this was McDonald's. So there you go. How much of a brand is that? Done. Any questions further on this? I have one more topic to complete. Do you want to take a 10 minutes break or do we go ahead? Silence. Break or no break?
Yeah, we'll take some breaks.
We'll take a break.
Take a break, 10 minutes break, and hang on. I can't give you a break the moment you ask. I am the boss, right? So, yeah. So stop share. Now, I'll at least tell you what I'm going to do next, and then I'll just give me 1 minute. I'll tell you what am I going next, and then we'll go. DSU, my drive, November 21. What is the global business war at peace times? Okay. War at peace times. Yeah. Art is a competition of war. Yeah. Share. Where is this? Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about competition and how in the world one company kills another company and what they should do for survival. The actual putting POTUS forces is different, but this is really art of war. So 10 minutes, 11:34, 11:45. Okay. Last class, so bear with me and you wouldn't see me again after this. Okay. Okay, good. So war is what happens not just in the borders, but war is what happens in boardrooms. War is what happens in the shopping malls. War is what happens on the display panels of the shop. How does Kellogg ensure that the moment you walk in, you see the Kellogg's brand and not the Saffola brand? That is war. How do you ensure that the customer, when you ask for brand A, the customer gives you brand B, even when brand A is available? How do you do that? How is all this done? This is the art of war. And Art of War is actually a book written by a person called Su Tzu, or Sun Tzu or something. You can find out. So he actually wrote The Art of War in the war sense, but we have now adapted it to meet the sense of the business world that we are in. Now, here is a preamble. You know what's a preamble, right? It's that part of the message that comes from a transmitter to a receiver saying that wake up here. That's the preamble. Somebody just did that preamble. So wake up and here is the content coming in. So the preamble is, why do all companies exist? And what is the main objective of each company? The only objective of any organization is profitability, profitability, profitability. The only thing that they want is profit. Some companies want profit at any cost. Some companies want profit doing ethical business. So leave it aside, but everybody, be it Mr. Tata or be it Mr. Sahara, all of them want profitability. But how they do it is something else. So to become profitable, to grow, you can only grow when certain thing happens. So one way of growing is if the size of the market increases. But that seldom happens, right? The market is, after all, limited. The market doesn't grow as fast as you want, unless and until it's an OTT market or a new kind of a market where Are you guys still there?
Yes, sir.
So we lost you, sir.
Professor, we lost you, sir.
Yeah, I know. But I lost the. But we are back, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if you look at the elections, do I have to record or? Yeah, it's continuing. So even if you look at the elections, BJP can win 300 seats. Samajwadi Party can also win 200 seats. Impossible. The only number of seats are 400 or something like that. So growth is only possible at the cost of the competitor. So now let's see what happens. So competitor has different ways in which you can look at it. You read this slide for yourself. I want you to pay attention to this particular slide. And 11:55, 12:10. Okay, 12:10 we are out. Okay, look at this. Market attractive to you. Competitors' reactiveness. So let's say you have a competitor, and that competitor has a market, has a product line. Let's say children's toys or toys for children. That is the market and sector, that is E. Competitors' reactiveness is how much? Is very, very high, very, very high. So, whereas attractive next to you is, these are children's books, let's say, children's books. That is something is very attractive to you. So, if you start focusing on the B business, the competitor may not react very strongly. But let's say you also enter the children's toys business. The competitor is going to get very aggressive. He's going to come and fight you because it is very dear to him in his business. So there are two things: a market which is attractive to you and the competitors' reactiveness. As long as these two are far apart, both of you are good friends, both of you are not treading on each other's toes, and both are happy. But when there is a clash of interest, then there's going to be a big trouble happening. Now look at this for a moment. Very few minutes we'll focus on it. Can you see this slide well?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Reasonably well,
Yes,
right?
we can see.
Okay, so look at Procter Gamble. Procter & Gamble, American personal care, reactiveness is very high. Unilever's attractiveness is European foods. So if Unilever goes and develops products for European foods, Procter & Gamble is not going to bother much. But for some reason, let's say Unilever comes up with American personal care products, then you are entering a market which is so dear to Procter & Gamble that they're going to fight you tooth and nail to ensure that they survive in this market. But how do they fight? What do they do to survive? Is in these following stories. One way to fight this market is called onslaught. What is onslaught? Come back, hit very hard, give price reduction, do anything and get into this market. So constantly Coke and Pepsi are doing an onslaught battle. Each one is fighting the other. This is lots of price cutting, lots of heavy expenditure on marketing and advertising, and many attempts to overthrow the market. This happens. Eventually, there could be two things that could happen. There could be one winner, there's one loser, and one of them may even walk out of the market. That means to say, as an example, if you look at IBM was initially making DRAM chips, okay? That is the dynamic random access memory chips. They were doing very well. They were in a very good position, IBM. Now the Japanese manufacturers came up. And they started going onslaught, hitting IBM left, right, and center. IBM also started fighting for that market share. Eventually, IBM realized, not going to happen. I think I must realize that these guys are too strong. I cannot fight this market. Let me get out of this market. So IBM makes a decision that I will say goodbye to this market and I'll get out of this market. So that is what happens in an onslaught. There is a definitive winner and there is a definitive loser. Sometimes the existing player can continue or the new player may have to walk out. So initially what happened when Wipro entered the American banking and BFSI market, that is banking, securities, finance market, Wipro was a new player. So what happened was Accenture and IBM started ganging up to fight Wipro. They said, it doesn't matter who gets between Accenture and IBM, but Wipro should not get American finance market. So they said, we will undercut, we will do anything for Wipro to fight, but Wipro held on for a long time and they were able to, despite the fact that they slashed margins, they didn't even, they said, we will go below margin, but we'll not allow Wipro to enter the market. So that is what happens in an onslaught. A slightly different example for you to understand is the story of Krishna and Jarasandha. I don't know if you guys know it. Krishna killed Kamsa and his son Jarasandha was very upset that this guy, this guy took over the kingdom. So what he did was Jarasandha repeatedly attacked Krishna in that kingdom, wherever that was. So Krishna, they fought many battles. Eventually, Krishna realizes that in this battle, there is no peace. So what he does is overnight he takes all his people and moves away to a different place, allowing this guy to rule the kingdom. So this is what is example of onslaught. I hope you guys are with me on it. The next example is called contest. What is contest? Contest, are you guys there? I mean, I just lost internet for a moment. Are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we hear.
Yeah. Okay, good. Contest is what? Contest is like onslaught, but little more structured. Onslaught is like carpet bombing. Onslaught is like searching for Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. You have no idea where he is. So virtually bomb the whole Afghanistan, and hopefully in the process he will die. But what happens is that's onslaught, huge expenses. But contest is a little more structured. But again, remember this topic, the story doesn't happen overnight. The story happens over 5 years, 6 years, and many times the stories will only come to the outside world after many years. So some examples that we have, very few examples that can be picked, but it's only for you to understand how it works. So now look at the story of Warner Brothers versus the DVD market. Now, what does Warner Brothers do? Warner Brothers makes some lovely movies. So Warner Brothers makes some lovely movies, and they of course release them in theaters, but they also release them in the DVD format. But who makes the money? It's not the Warner Brothers who make the money. It's the DVD circulating companies, the DVD parlor or the video, whatever it's called, the VCD parlor, video parlor, whatever. So they take one DVD of a movie from Warner Brothers and circulate it to 100 people. So the pain and effort is of Warner Brothers. The beneficiary is the DVD market. So what do? That's the story of the market. You cannot bring in a legislation and say DVD guys are not supposed to exist. That's not going to happen. So how do you contest a situation like this? That's when normally in context, technology starts to do a role. So Warner Brothers says, it cost my customer about $5 to rent a movie theater. Rent a DVD. So they go back and do a huge amount of back-end research and technology development and say that I can come up with a DVD itself at $7. So instead of renting a DVD at $5 and I having to go back and return it a few days later, Warner Brothers gives you an option to buy it and keep it with you. Who doesn't want to watch Home Alone again and again and again and again? Or who doesn't want to watch E.T. or any Steven Spielberg movie again and again and again? So instead of paying $5, why not I pay $7 and buy the movie, and it's more better print and I don't carry a guilt and all that stuff. So a contest is when you notice that your sector is being eaten away by somebody, and then you come up with a technology innovation to be able to fight the market, right? Got it? Now that is done. Then there is what is called guerrilla. What is guerrilla campaigning? Guerrilla, oh my God. Okay, anyway, let's forget it. I'm not able to get rid of this screen. Yes, getting it. Yeah, guerrilla. So what is guerrilla? Guerrilla warfare is what happens between the Naxalites and the government. what is one fundamental difference between guerrilla war and regular war? Can anybody tell us?
Sir, in guerrilla world, they come, hit, and they again hide. It's not continuously they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in
one
normal world,
other factor?
Surprise your opponents.
Surprise your opponent, fine, number one. And there are no rules to the game. Correct? There are no rules to the game. You can do anything that you want. Even if between India and Pakistan, there's a war, there is some rules which are applied. I can't quickly recall. It's called the something. It's there. Okay. Anyway, so guerrilla warfare, mostly in all the books, we find this example of progressive, but I'm not going to give you that example. I'm going to give you a different example. How many of you know a company called Haier? Haier.
It was a GE company before.
It was a
GE company before for
it was not a GE company.
Air conditioner company.
They used to compete with GE. There's a Chinese company called Haier. Okay. So anyway, so Haier is now a popular white goods brand in India. But I'll tell you what Haier did and how they did it very uniquely. So when Haier, after its success in China, wanted to enter the American market, they found that it's very impossible for them to enter the American white goods market. Their leaders like GE, Whirlpool, LG, Samsung, then how do you survive in a market like this? And I don't know how many times you've gone, but if you ask for a non-popular brand of product in a mall, you will find that brand somewhere in the corner part of the showroom. Nobody wants to give it attraction. So similarly, if Haier were to fight these brands, the salesmen would not give you attention because the salesmen are all bought. The distribution chain is well controlled. And how do you enter in such a saturated, very controlled market? You will get no attention. So what Haier did is now very popularly known as the Haier campaign in the US. In US, there is a very unique way in people go on a holiday. When they go on a holiday, they go towards the forest or the beaches or the hills. And on the way, they stop overnight, or they stay in small hotels. They're called motels. And these are kind of Ginger or those kind of the Tata Ginger group, those kind of hotels. These are not the big ones. So people hang on there for a couple of days and do that. So what Haier did was to approach these secondary hotels which are on the highways or not in the business areas, but in the holiday areas and secondary towns. And they started putting their refrigerator, they started putting their television, they started putting their air conditioners in the hotel. So when somebody like you and me check into the hotel, we will switch on the TV, we'll look at what is there in the refrigerator and see how quiet is the air conditioner. So what happened was when people went and stayed in these hotels, they had some good experiences. Wow, the television looks good. Hey, the air conditioning makes less noise. And the refrigerator seems to be well designed. So next time when these people wanted to buy a new white goods and they saw a Haier brand, they were able to correlate it with their previous experience in their holiday. And having experienced the brand for having stayed there for 2-3 days, they were able to make a quick decision and even buy it. So even without challenging the top brands, overnight, Haier became a reasonably large market shareholder under the nose of the big players because they were able to do a below the radar campaign and get into the American market. So this is what is called the guerrilla campaign. I hope you guys get it. All right. Next is called feint. Feint is a little funny. Feint is looking London, talking Tokyo, and all that stuff that I put up for you to understand. So what happens is you divert the attention of your competitor to a different market, keep him engaged in that market, and then get yourself a market for you which has no competitor involved in. It's a difficult to explain, but I'll try doing it. Is that what happens was Dell predominantly wanted to be in the PC market, and what they did was that they were worried about how HP and IBM would compete with them. So Dell goes aggressive on the laptop markets of HP and IBM, which is very dear to HP and IBM. So they go and defend it. In the process of defending it, they leave the field open for Dell, which is actually the intention of Dell. So as I said, there are very few examples that can be done, but what you will be asked is to define it, and my last page will give you definitions for you to understand. The last two of them, one is called gambit. If you play chess, you know what is gambit. Gambit is giving up something to get something in return. So one example, and this is probably the only example that can be found in the market, which is reasonably recent, is a purely a men thing, is shaving sticks for men. So for a large period of time, there were two major players, Gillette and Bic. So Gillette was making shaving sticks, and Bic was also making shaving sticks. Bic was also making lighters and pens. Gillette was also making lighters and pens. So now Gillette is having virtually a very dominant market when it comes to men shaving products. If you look at it, it's called the long tail theory, meaning they sell you the stick and you pay a lot of money to buy the cartridges. And the cartridges are many more times expensive than the stick. So the market continued. One fine day, Bic realized that how do I disrupt this market? They say that Gillette is making so much of money, they're taking the customers for a ride. Why don't I do something else? What do I do? So they came up with what is called disposable sticks. These are plastic disposable sticks. You just use it for 1 or 2 times and just throw it off. And this cost 1/10 or 1/20th of a Gillette Mac 3 or Mac 10 or whatever that is was there. So now the whole market is shaken up. And most importantly, Gillette's cash cow, which was the Mac or the stick, is now being threatened. Now, Gillette has no other option but to also introduce disposable sticks. But everybody knows that disposable sticks don't make money. And so Bic is losing, Gillette is losing, their cash cow is no longer being effective. What do? Take a white flag, invite Bic for a discussion, sit down for a cup of coffee with Bic and say, hey, listen, this is not fair. You are bleeding, I am bleeding. Let's come to a compromise. So what's a compromise? A compromise is when Gillette says, I will get out of the lighter and the pen business, and you get out of the shaving stick business. Fair deal. Each one of them get into different markets. And within months, Gillette stops producing its disposables. So you see that you don't get them nowadays in India too. And they're back to fleecing you left, right, and center. So that is gambit. Finally, harvesting. Harvesting is, you say, very easy today because of the vaccination process, is that each one of you have a market for yourself and live happily there. So that is like AstraZeneca telling Serum Institute of India that you handle the Asian market, I'll handle the European market, I'll give the market to maybe Johnson or somebody else for the American market. So harvesting is allowing each one to have certain geographical control. So all of this is summarized in this page. And of course, there'll be 1 or 2 questions asked to you on this, so you should be able to explain. Any questions on this? I guess very few questions, because if you either get the story or you don't get it at all, and then you need to stick to understanding what it is and the tactics there. So with this, I am done. Thank you very much. I enjoyed teaching you guys. I don't take any further classes. I'm a nursery class teacher. So when you go to term 2, term 3, I'm not there. And all the very best. And if you come to the college and you see me, because I hardly see few of your faces, say hello to me. Right? Done. Any questions on the subject, on the course, on the question papers, on the assignments, whatever that you may have?
So thank you, first of all, for your good teaching. Whatever we have learned from you, it's very good actually. And it's very great that you have been taught to us. I think LMS is there.
Thank you, Vasan. Yeah.
LMS is there where we can find all the stuffs there. I think
I think it is there. I think it's there. Definitely there, because the LMS is linked to my drive.
Okay.
So it should be there. But if it's not there, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, so we can find all the documents related to the studies and also the question paper models, everything. I believe it will be there.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
The question paper model, I made one model long back,
Okay.
but actually I gave you the question paper itself.
What?
Did you guys not get the question paper?
No.
No.
Is this a scam?
I've been giving you the question paper for the last 6 classes.
Yeah. Whatever we learned in the classes.
You know, whoever said this is a scam needs to be hit. That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's me, Anusha.
Yeah, Anusha. Okay, good. Very nice. Very nice. Good. I had fun teaching you all. I hope.
Thank you, Professor.
I hope it was fun. Of course, learning with fun is what I wanted to do. And yeah, keep up the good work. Once you become VPs and CEOs, once in a while, let me know. You have my email and say, sir, I'm doing well in life, despite you or due to you, whatever. But keep us all informed how you progress in life. Don't take life too seriously. Relax, meditate. Don't take your exams also too seriously. But take assignment very seriously. Okay.
Professor, one question. Actually, in AM accounting management, we have a material saved there. Actually, whatever they are taking classes, the same materials have been saved there, Word format. So like that, do we have for marketing MM also? Because I have not seen that. We have recorded classes and PPTs, but the materials is not saved.
Okay. You're saying that in accounts for manager, they have PPT and they have a Word document. They have a
Word document. The same study material, what they're teaching, the same Word document is there, chapter wise they have. But the same we are not finding in MM and.
Why would you want it? I'll tell you why they want it and why I don't want it. Because accounting for managers is so, okay, disclaimer, quote unquote.
Yeah, it has a practical question.
It's my subject, so I'll speak good about it. Accounting, you need to, the definition has to be very clear. The examples are very clear and very numerical. What I am looking at in my subject is read the definition, but write your own definitions. Take my learning and create your answers. So if I give you a Word document, you will do a Control-C and Control-V in your mind, not on the writing. So I'm more interested in you understanding the concept and not too very worried about how close to the answer that you are. Does it give you some answer?
Yeah. No, I asked from the examination point of view before we had to refer.
LMS, no. You read books. I don't have, it'll be impossible for me to, you see how my documents, my PPTs are. It's impossible for me to convert them to Word doc. I can give you some links to articles to read. I can give you, for example, 5 links for Porter's forces. I can give you 3 links for examples of contest or SWOT or I don't think there's at least that's my problem. Or that's the way it is.
So I have a question here.
Yeah.
So just by running through all of those slides and whatever we have learned in the 6 classes, so would that help us in putting up something in the paper? Because usually
if you read through all that, what we have discussed, you've understood all that I have done, I can guarantee you 85 out of 100. But how do you get the other 15? The other 15 by using your intelligence.
Would it be more of realistic questions or how
Absolutely realistic questions.
Okay, got it.
Absolutely realistic questions.
So can we
This
have
time
any
we are
model
having
question paper last year?
There is. You will get a model question paper. There is one model question.
No, so last year's question paper, previous year's questions papers, anything is there in the LMS. It was there in LMS before, but I think now they have pulled it down.
Smartly, right? Thankfully.
Yes, sir.
No, that doesn't matter. Last year or this year, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. It won't matter. It won't matter. Actually, you know what? No, because this is a young executive MBA program, I cannot suggest you this, but otherwise, when we were in college, especially in PU, not in PU, in SSLC. In SSLC, I knew exactly how to get 95%. Because they told me that last 15 years question paper, if you solve, it's a combination of that will become the 16th paper. So it won't work in the case of marketing. Every question paper is redesigned with new current situation and current dynamics. For example, I'll tell you, Magic Quadrant was not even taught 2 semesters back. For example, the way in which I have taught you pricing was not taught last term. Because every term, 2 things. I am, by my nature, I have to be updated. Second is the university and the dean drives us to be innovative in what we do. So I also have to pick up newer thought processes, the thought of an economic value of a price, the thought of an augmented product is all something that you ask your seniors, they won't even know a damn about it. It's because these are newer terminologies that are coming in and being introduced. So this is a dynamic business. This is a dynamic thing. The first batch which walked out didn't even have a clue of what is Magic Quadrant. So maybe 3 terms from now, Magic Quadrant or SWOT may no longer be there. I could replace it with something else. So I know this is a long answer to your question, is that you're doing a management course. You have no right to ask me what's a model paper. You should be able to, these 15 topics like SWOT, GID, anything that's around that, you should be able to answer. Get out that mindset that there are boundaries to what the professor can ask in the exam. No, there are no boundaries. I can ask you anything because we are out to make better managers. Similarly, there are no definitive framework of what your answer is going to be. If you are reading more, you will be able to give better answers. So somebody can come back and say, the example of hair in American market is wrong. You should look at the way TikTok has been able to rule into how it's given a run for money for Instagram. What is that? Overnight, TikTok is there. Isn't that a guerrilla campaign? So that's the way it should be, right? I hope you got it. Right? It's not targeted at the person who's asked this question. Let me also say that. And I actually thank the person who asked the question because you have allowed me the opportunity to explain, one, my methodology of teaching you. Second, the methodology that's adopted by the dean in making sure we are always ahead of the curve and the bigger picture that the university is looking at. So that's the way it remains. Okay, good. Anything else?
Sir, nothing like that's a good thought what you have given. Like there will be no kind of a boundary for learning, and we need to capture everything.
There's no boundary,
This
right? Yeah, good. Do well. Keep in touch with me. You know how to reach me. Yes. Anything else?
So the online exams are there this time. So we don't want the pattern or something. At least how the marks will be distributed.
You will get a pattern. You will get a pattern. You will get
how
a
the
pattern.
marks will be distributed, sir.
No. I'll tell you. You'll get a pattern. There is a model paper which tells you that. I may get it wrong, but you ask for it. You have to answer 4 questions for 5 marks. You will have to answer 5 questions for 10 marks. Then you will have to answer 3 questions for 30 marks or something like that. There's a model paper which exactly tells you how many questions you have. That's very good. Okay, that you will find it. I agree with you, Wasim. Very correct.
Okay.
And the one. You must know the pattern. Yes, there is a pattern. You will be asked, define onslaught. That's a 5 marks question. What do you think could be the ways in which a business community can stop new entrants impacting their business? That's a 10-mark question. Now, Titan, unfortunately, is not able to do well in the what is that, perfume industry, despite the fact that they did well in this. Give me 3 reasons what went wrong in the skin market and what you could suggest to do better. That'll be 30 marks. And what will you do? You will use all known terminologies and try to bring it into this. Okay.
So basically, we have to go through all the PPTs and we have to research and collect more information for the exam. That's what you are.
Yes. If you do it, you'll get.
Fine, Professor. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, good. Take care, guys.
Sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. And one more thing is that your the voice and the style of the teaching is really impressive.
Oh my God.
Very, very impressive. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you.
The voice is very unique, sir.
Why, my man? I hope it's in the good sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's not from the examination point of view.
No, thank you. I'll go back and tell my wife right away because she says, "Why are you shouting at me all the time?" I say,
"No, very, very nice, very good voice, unique voice. Thank you."
Can become a singer, huh?
I know. Anushka,
we'll meet, sir.
You should be able to play.
And also with a good sense of humor.
Good sense of humor. Okay, good. Yeah, nice. What more can a professor ask for as a compliment or as a fruit of the labor of work? Good. And most importantly, what I would ask you is, you have seen my face. I have not seen most of you. So you see me somewhere, see me in the class, make sure you come and say hello to me.
Sir, we'll catch up in the campus once this pandemic was.
Yes. We will catch up in the campus.
We had to meet up.
Sure, Professor. Sure, definitely.
Sure. Take care. You have another.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your word. Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you,
sure.
Professor.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye bye.
Bye, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Good. Bye.